But before we begin, we have a special sponsor. And guys, if you are single, there's only one thing that women want to hear more than your bank account and your height, and that's if you learn. And if you don't have a chavrusa right now, you can find a chavrusa using My Avrech. With My Avrech, they will simply match you up with a perfect avrech for you. You can study any topic you want, and of course, it's good for Shidduchim. Go to myavrech.co and get your avrech today.
Sarah and Max, an unlikely pair in this wild podcast. They're the perfect flair. Sarah charms, so feminine and free. A Cali girl spirit under the podcast tree. Max a strong force with a punch in every word. Together they navigate the dating absurd. Don't forget to hit subscribe, join the crew for more laughs and tales just for you. Now back to the show.
Welcome everybody back to another and final episode of Good for Shidduchim. I am your host, Max Landisman. Along with me is my co-host, Sarah Levine. In this episode, we're going to go over essentially all of the highlights of the show for over the past couple of years. And if you stay to the end, we're going to address a couple of things. We're going to address my final thoughts on the current status of the Shidduchim world, and also things that I may or may not have changed my mind over. But I'm glad we're here. Sarah's on. We get to finally kind of go off the show with a bang. So welcome, Sarah.
I know. I'm excited to be here. I know it's been a while, but I'm happy that we were able to make it work. And it's just been a wild ride on my end. So I'm happy we could do this. But yeah, it is coming to an end because we need to prioritize our podcast, and it's very difficult to do. People who do it, I give them a lot of credit because I did not realize how much work does go into a podcast. And we realized we really could actually take it to the next level, but it's just hard. And when it's just the two of us and we have other lives outside of the podcast, it's hard to prioritize the podcast. So unfortunately, it's something that we have to do. But we also didn't want kind of to beat a dead horse, we wanted to make sure that what we said was kind of crystallized and solidified, but not kind of overdone. So I think we're ending at a good spot.
I think so too. At first, I was talking it over with Rabbi Halpert actually about, I was a little somber about it because, when we first, the whole purpose of doing the show was because I was sick and tired of just everything I'm listening to. I'm just, I live it. I'm in the Shidduchim world. And I'm like, I feel like I want to do something about it. So I want to bring things to fruition that I feel like maybe people didn't necessarily think of before and actually create change. So I remember talking to him about it. It was like a Shabbos afternoon, and I felt very defeated, I would say. I felt like we didn't create the change I was looking for or whatever, or enough change, because I still feel like all the same stuff is still continuing to go on and on. And then Rabbi Halpert's like, what are you talking about? How do you don't actually know how much change you actually brought? People listening, etc. He's like, and I actually mentioned, I'm like, that's actually a good point. I remember there are certain stories, someone that reached out to me said, I was listening to your show, and I remember what you said about you shouldn't marry a guy based on his job title. You should marry a guy because he's a winner, essentially. And she took that to heart, and she mentioned that she ended up going out with a guy she may not have ordinarily gone out with. They ended up getting married from it. So he's like, see, from there, that's a huge win. So I'm like, you're right. Ultimately, we don't know the effect we actually have in the world. We try to do the best we can. So from that perspective, I actually I appreciate his input. Put it to you that way.
Yeah. No, I don't think people notice the change, I guess, that they've started, but I do think just starting the conversation itself is a big deal. So
yeah, and because when someone came up to me and is like, I remember he just mentioned, he's like, yeah, I know you have this podcast and you you know, like you just go on and rant. I'm like, I hope that people take of it that I didn't, or we didn't create this show to simply just rant on, because anyone could do that. Anyone could just bring a bunch of just, you know, what's wrong with this. I feel that anytime we've mentioned anything we feel that could be better, we brought solutions with it as well. It wasn't, we did not start this show to simply just rant on things. It was really to create positive change ultimately. And, you know, we definitely brought things up that I feel that people really have not thought about before in a certain way. And that's really the goal of the show, is really to kind of like for example, someone who feels just completely just wiped out because someone, you know, asked for their resume at, you know, a shul kiddush, and they feel that anytime someone asks for it, that they feel obligated to give it to them, but ultimately the person never follows up with them, and they end up feeling dejected, if that's a word, or bad about themselves. And essentially what we brought up is like, just because someone asks you for your resume doesn't mean you have to give it to them. Like, there's no mitzvah in the Torah to essentially drive yourself nuts. And I feel like just people are just running in a circle, just like, oh, shtadlis, but that doesn't do anyone good. It's just like stuff like that kind of bring into fruition, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I hope that people kind of took out of it and kind of got a new perspective on things that maybe they didn't think of before.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. I think we, I think we did rant in a lot of the episodes. But I hope people learn from our rants. It wasn't necessarily, like you said, we didn't want to like start everything on a rant, but hopefully start the conversation and have a conversation about things. If we were passionate about something, I think we did go on about it, but I feel like that was the episode, and that's our podcast.
But again, like, we brought solutions with it. It wasn't just the show was not about bashing anything or anyone. It was about, we definitely did that when we felt it was needed, but ultimately we also brought a solution. I feel like that's what's missing in the world, is the solution part.
Yes.
And I feel like, you know, anytime we brought something up, any topic we ever brought up, there came with it a solution. It wasn't just about the ranting. That was the entertainment part. But ultimately, it's a, you know, we bring humor into it, etc. But ultimately, it is about trying to bring change into the world, especially in the world of Shidduchim, which it just seems to be getting crazier and crazier by the day.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're strapped for time, so why don't we get into it? So I wrote a whole list of things that really kind of stood out to me. Sarah, what was something that really stood out to you? Maybe a highlight of the show, or, you know, something around that.
I would say a highlight of the show, I really did enjoy bringing the different points of views in terms of dating. So the different cultures that we interviewed. I really enjoyed that. I would actually have liked to have done that a little more, delve into different types of cultures. That was really the highlight for me. I really enjoyed interviewing McCall and Nima. And I thought, honestly, it was a little bit more fun. It wasn't like as serious as our other interviews. But yeah, that would be it for me.
What other cultures did you want to bring on potentially, or?
I don't know. I feel like
she was
like Asian cultures,
okay,
like Chinese, Japanese type of cultures, in terms of their dating norms. That's what I was thinking. Something like that, or even different parts of the world, like how they date.
Yeah. I hear that. Any particular reason why Japanese or Asian culture or anything like that, or?
I mean, just because you asked me, that's what I was thinking.
I hear you.
Because we did a Muslim culture. We did
Mormon culture.
What?
McCall is Mormon. Yeah.
And McCall, yeah, it was Mormon. And I was just thinking, like, that would be interesting, especially because it's like nobody really talks about that.
It's true. Nobody really does.
Or maybe more of a Hindu type of dating.
Well, Well,
Naima was a little bit of both.
yeah.
She comes from a Muslim background, so it was kind of like a little bit of both. But yeah, I feel like those two cultures would be very interesting just to delve into. I mean, I'm open to talking to anybody. I think a lot of people. I mean, I'm ignorant. I don't know what it's like dating in different cultures, different countries. So it would be nice to know. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious, especially when McCall was talking about it's what's it called? If they're actually very, very similar to us in a lot of different ways.
That's the thing that's so interesting is like, yeah. I didn't know anything about Mormon dating or Mormon culture. And interviewing her, I was like, wow, there are a lot of parallels to Orthodox Judaism and dating. And so it's just nice to, educate yourself on stuff like that. And then it sparks conversation with them. And it brings up different things into, our dating realms and stuff. So I find it to be very interesting and also educational at the same time. And yeah, so I thought that was really interesting, and it's unfortunate I don't have any other friends outside of the Jewish faith that like I could interview. Now I'm like trying to think, do I? But I really don't know.
Yeah. Well, first off, like,
I guess we could have done Catholic, but I mean, or Protestant.
Yeah, I could have found somebody. They also have to be willing to come on.
But to be honest, I feel like I knew a little bit about their dating, but I guess like it doesn't matter because we would have learned a lot from that. So we could have we could have done something like that. I guess that's a little bit of a setback. Looking back on, we could have done something about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe our next podcast.
Yeah. Listen, we're let's put it this way. We're going on hiatus because honestly, as more time goes on, the more I feel like not as many people necessarily know about this podcast. However, once they do and they listen to one episode, they typically stay, and it keeps growing, even though we're not really necessarily producing more episodes. It keeps going. And I feel like these are one of those shows that might take a lot more time to really kind of click with the world. I would say it's growing, but growing slowly.
Yeah.
Growing slowly and steadily, which is nice. So in 2 years from now, if there's really like a demand that we come back, I'll be open to it, but we'll talk about that when the time comes. But it was I feel like the Dvork Eagle episode was I love that episode. I do genuinely feel that she is a powerhouse, and that one of the biggest, I would say, I feel like just people are going to get so mad at me when I say this, because especially it's coming from a man, but like women need guidance in dating, and it's going to piss off a lot of people. But I feel like she brings that guidance. Honestly, I want her to also do for men as well. I feel like that could definitely.
I was going to say men also need guidance. I think both
men need guidance. Men need guidance as well. But so hopefully she'll be able to kind of get into the men's side as well, which hopefully she can. But I read her book. It's fantastic. And I do generally feel like if you are a woman, like it's absolutely necessary to read her book. And even as a guy, I recommend reading her book. And I honestly can't wait for her to publish her book specifically for men, because that's also going to be, I feel like, a very necessary thing. So
I can't remember. Did she say she was doing that? I think she was. She's
in the middle. Yeah, she may. It's just not her thing, really. Like, her guys are not really her thing. She really honed in on the woman, like, target market, I would say. I mean, she's closing it. The reason why I say this is because she's closing in on almost 400 matches essentially. But these are.
But she doesn't know exactly. She always.
No, she does know exactly.
Oh.
I just don't know.
That she doesn't really know.
I'm sure that maybe there are more people outside of there that indirectly might have done something, but as far as she knows, the numbers keep going up. I think when I interviewed, there was about 370. Now I saw on Instagram it was like 384 or something, whatever. But these were people that specifically were going towards a certain type of guy, whatever. It wasn't working out. She kind of opened their eyes to other things, and all of a sudden they're attracted to, they're happily married. Everything's going well, but it's close to almost 400 people at this point. That's a significant number. So I'm a huge fan. But yeah, I'm looking for the guy version of that too. Trust me. We could use some guidance too. But until then.
Yeah, I know. I think we should, well, I guess in our alternative universe, if we would keep going for season 2, it would be nice to have a lot of men coaches on. We really had we interviewed a lot of women who were involved with dating and helping facilitate dating. It was just more of like, that's, I guess, who came through through our networking. We did interview one psychologist who was a man, but I think in our next,
you're talking about Dr. Yosef Sokol?
yeah.
Oh, that was a big one. That was a really big one because that was the Shidduch study that everyone loves to misquote. That everyone loves to misquote. They're like, oh, 98% of people end up getting married, so there's no Shidduch crisis. You're an idiot. I'm sorry. You don't know your numbers because you've never actually read. People who quote that number have never read the study. Actually read the study.
It was nice to have him on because
it was fantastic.
He has the Shidduch approach, but also he has the actual numbers and the research, which is a big deal.
That's right.
And it was great to have him on and have also a man's perspective on everything because we were having a lot of women on. But I would try at our potential next season, if we would, I think we should try interview a lot more men out there, divorced men, widowers. So just to kind of spread a little more light or like shed a little more light, I would say, on the men's perspective of things.
Listen, ultimately, there were a lot of people that just, for whatever reason, did not want to be on a Shidduch podcast because they felt it might be bad for Shidduchim. That be on a podcast.
Yeah, we did. That's right. We did reach out to a lot of people. There were a couple people who were going to come on, but they decided not to.
Because of the Shidduchim mafia, that God forbid that someone should be on a podcast, but
yeah, that's okay. Right. That's right. Okay. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's exposure, and people have to be okay with that exposure. But if they're not, then we're not going to make people do something they don't want to do. So
that's okay. But having Rabbi Dr. Yosef Sokol on was fantastic. That was freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I highly recommend you do, because again, people are constantly misquoting him as far as 98% of people get married, so therefore you don't know the nuance to it. That's not the correct number, first of all, and it's not telling you the story. So I do highly recommend you go out and listen to that episode. It was episode 42, so go and listen to that one. Mm-hmm. But also I remember episode 53, which is kind of what I did my whole expose on essentially how women treat guys at singles events, that I thought it wasn't shocking to me, but I just remember, those couple of women who said, yeah, if a guy asks me out at a singles event, I just give him my number. And then when he texts me later, I just let him down easy. And I just couldn't believe it. And I said, I'm like, first of all, if you do that to any guy, like, I would immediately lose respect for you and that's a really big slap in the face. And she's like, no, Max, you're just projecting. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to do my own study. I'm going to ask 50 guys. I'm going to ask 50 girls. And ultimately that's what we did. And it turns out that guys are a lot tougher than you think they are. It's really not necessarily about guys can't handle rejection. What they can't handle is being disrespected. And I felt that they were truly being disrespected, and I called them out on it.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really important to kind of give over a perspective that most women are completely clueless about.
Didn't you just recently go to an event?
I did. I mean, that event. So you talking about Mr. Broadway?
Yeah.
So hold on. Can we give a background? Can we give the background of the Mr. Broadway?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
So it ended up being that Mr. Broadway wanted to start hosting singles events. And so they ended up, as they were doing the research, lo and behold, they come across this podcast called Good for Shidduchim, and they listened to the episode with Leah Respler, and they somehow got her contact and reached out to her and asked her, like, hey, I love that episode. talked about how she conducts essentially her annual barbecue that has over 100 people every year. Would she be interested in helping organize a Shidduchim event at Mr. Broadway? And that's actually how it got started. They found her on Good for Shidduchim. So yeah.
So you're welcome.
Yes. So anyways, continue. And by the way, when I actually walked in, the first person that sees me, there was this guy that came over because he heard me. I was speaking to somebody. And he's like, "Are you Max?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." He's like, "Landisman?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Do you have a podcast called Good For?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." He's like, "Oh my God, I listen to you every day." My first thoughts were, I'm like, we only have like 57 episodes. He's going to run out of material pretty quickly. But so he's like, "I just started listening to you. I love the show." So I'm like, that really like, I love that. I love that, especially a single guy is listening to it, because I feel like they can benefit just as much as women can.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know so much about the single event. I wasn't there. You were there. But in the car ride home, you had asked the girls that you were driving with if the situation that happened with you at the event was normal.
What do you mean?
My thing's falling off. Apparently a girl, you would just walk up to girls. Obviously you're at a singles event. That's what you do, right? And
Sure.
they wouldn't even like talk to you. They wouldn't.
Yeah. I was expecting that. It's a city crowd. You're going to get city folk people.
Really? I think
what
that's so mean. I honestly think it's just mean.
It is. That's why I generally don't go to city events because of that. The only reason I went is because Leah Respler ran it. That is why I went. And also it had indirectly was because of Good for Shidduchim. So of course I went. But I knew going in that you're going to get nice people and you're going to get douchebags, just like any of it,
I just think what bothered me the most was that you asked people, like specific people, if this was like normal, and they agreed, and I was like, nah.
I'm trying to remember.
I just don't agree with it. Like, just because somebody's coming up to you, first of all, doesn't mean that they do want to date you. It just means that they're interested and they want to say hi. Like, what's the big deal? What are you there for?
Well, even in my case, like, just because I go over to you doesn't necessarily mean I actually like I want to date you right off the bat. It's just because
you're being friendly, you're being nice, you're trying to meet people. Like, oh my God.
You have to be standing right there. So yeah, again, this kind of falls under the pretense like why guys don't approach as much or whatever it is. Because you treat them like crap. And guys just they just don't want to deal with it, But listen, I'm still gonna go up to people. If you have a problem with that, then go screw yourself. But I'm gonna still do my thing, whatever. And it is what it is. But to think guys are gonna continue to tolerate this is not gonna happen.
Well, I would have been there for the food. Was the food good at least?
It was Mr. Broadway. Yeah. I wish they had deli sandwiches. Honestly, I wish they had deli sandwiches because that's really the go-to thing to get.
Did they have pickles and coleslaw?
They did have pickles. I do believe they had coleslaw. I do believe they had pickles, great pickles.
Okay, so knowing Shlomi, he would have been very happy.
Yeah. So, do you remember also any other highlights for you? Because I got a whole list of stuff.
You go first. Yeah. Show me your highlights.
Do you remember Beta Seabrow's I love Beta Seabrow.
Yeah.
I thought she was great. It was just what a breath of fresh air.
She's just a sweet person, like a genuinely sweet person.
Right. Well, I feel like really kind of gets it. And
yeah, she gets it. And she's fearless too. That's the thing.
That's what I really like about her is that she'll tell it like it is, regardless of what people think, which I love. Yeah. Which you kind of speak the truth, which I think in the Shidduchim world, it's especially refreshing because I feel like a lot of the Shidduchim world is basically completely fake because that it will somehow affect their there or sibling shidduchim or kids shidduchim prospects. So you got to live a fake life, which again is kind of a big reason why we started this podcast, was to show like just be you. Just don't be a fake or a fraud, or stop being an idiot.
Yeah.
Do you remember the gender roles one? That was probably one of our more controversial ones. Which
yes.
Which I thought he brought up. I thought he brought up a lot of good points. I'm not entirely look, I've dated a whole slew of people. There are people that really don't seem to care about the actual dating. They care more about the career. What's my career going to be? Whatever. They're so focused on career and they wonder why they're not married. Because I felt like they weren't present on the date. I felt like they didn't even want to be there. Like, am I that? I'm sorry. So I hear what he's saying. There's a lot of truth to that. And, I didn't necessarily think that you can't, I'm not against women working. I think that's fine. The only thing that I will say is, what's the priority? Is it family or is it the job? Family comes first, job also is important. However, it's not your entire life. If that makes sense. You don't seem too happy.
I mean, I think he was saying a lot more than that.
I'm sure he was. I'm kind of watering it down to kind of give my perspective. Not necessarily. He was very, very harif about it. He was like, no, if you're a woman, you absolutely cannot work. Like, that's, So I don't agree necessarily, but I hear where he's coming from.
I mean, if it works for him and if it works for some people, then that's great. I just would never push my agenda, on any other couple or any other person.
Right.
So
I think it's a mindset.
Yeah, for sure. It's a mindset. It's a mindset, and it's how you want to live your life. It's also like your lifestyle, how you picture it.
Shidduchim. I just remember two friends were like furious about it. Like, oh, how could you, allow this?
I know people were mad at me for not saying a little more to him, but to be honest, that's why we had him on, was because we wanted his perspective, and
sure.
We're not the hosts that are going to eat you alive on when we record. We're going to let you talk. We're going to let you say your piece. And we'll ask you questions. We may challenge you, but we're not like the banter of just having you come on to set you up to fail,
Right. I mean, ultimately, maybe I really kind of held back for my opinion. I waited until the end because I guess at the time I really just wanted him to, say his piece, and I didn't want to interrupt that. But looking back, maybe I could have not necessarily interrupt, but really kind of say my piece while he was on, maybe. So,
but
if we can
also,
do it again.
Don't forget, we can't just have a 2-hour podcast.
Right.
I feel like that episode in particular would have gone on for hours. So we want him, that's the point of having a host on, is having their perspective, having having them say what they wanted to say, putting a different perspective out there. But yeah, I mean, it could be controversial, and I understand why people were upset with me, and I didn't say I wasn't pressing a little more, but I was honestly just interested in what he had to say, and not necessarily did I agree with it, but I wanted to give him the respect of the time. So
yeah, Shidduchim. That's right. Any other episodes that kind of stood out to you?
Lisa Elephant.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed her. I really enjoyed hearing about her, how she started her matchmaking business and everything like that, and how everything just kind of
business or
exploded.
Yeah, Dr. Shachin. It's helped a lot of people and made a lot of matches.
Well, yeah, business and in general. I don't know, knowing the background before Dr. Shachin.
Organization, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty. When I spoke to her, even for a half hour even before, trying to recruit her to come to the show, I felt like she was very different than a typical shadchan in the sense of she was much more like lives in reality than, you know, like she doesn't sugarcoat things, which I liked, which is great.
Yeah.
Which is great. Yeah.
I will say for the Eliza Ben Shalom episode, I wish I was a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
I had so many other questions to ask her, but I was giving her space and her time, and I feel like I should have been a little more aggressive.
What would you have asked?
Oh well.
Yeah. Why? What would you have asked?
I think I had a lot more like controversial questions to ask her.
Sure.
And when she would say something, I would kind of want to press her on what she would say.
Okay.
But I don't know. It was just I kind of took a step back with that one. Maybe we can get her back on. No, I feel like that was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
It's okay.
But, yeah.
That was fun to have her on. Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. Do you remember episode 48 I really liked? That was with Sipor Guggenheim. We were talking about feminism and dating. Great. I think Sipor Guggenheim is a great shadchan. And yeah, she really brought to light a lot of things, such as, you know, something that really kind of stood out to me was she mentioned how like a woman who's like 40 years old is like, I'd rather be single than to be with a guy who's bald, whatever it is, which is like insane. Majority of guys end up going bald or balding eventually, whatever.
And you never know who has alopecia. Just saying.
True. You know?
I'm just saying. I'm like people are like, oh, I want a guy who has thick hair. You have no idea what that guy is going through. You don't know.
I think this is my, you know, bigger point as far as like views, you know, kind of shifting over to kind of views changing in a sense, you know, over the course of this podcast, where, I thought like, I'll give a, I thought specifically women were getting eaten alive in the Shidduchim world, and they probably feel that way, certainly. And there's a lot of people that genuinely are having a hard time. And it's kind of like another reason why I wanted to start this podcast was also give them a voice a little bit to kind of, what I would hear. It's like if a woman is, in a meeting with a shadchan and a shadchan, says a whole slew of just super inappropriate or demeaning things to the girl. Like I wanted that to come to light. I wanted people to know about it so that it doesn't happen. It doesn't keep happening. But honestly, over the course of the podcast, speaking to all the people we spoke to, all the shadchanim, the actual people who are in shidduchim and things, it's all going to come down to this one story. I'm going to say this story, and I think it gives a really good sense of how I feel towards, I would say, women specifically in shidduchim.
Okay.
And this story was told over to me, and ultimately I think this is one of the biggest core problems in shidduchim. And I don't think it's so easily fixable. I think it's an attitude that people have nowadays.
You have me at the edge of my seat, Max.
Yeah. So, all right. I don't want to give away too much, so I'm going to keep away like the event name and things like that. Okay. But there was an event. There was a girl who was sitting down. There was a meeting with the shadchan, whatever it is, and she was crying her eyes out, bawling. Oh, no. I can't find anybody. I'm never gonna get married. It was just, your heart goes out to that person, genuinely. And the shadchan is sitting there like, what can I and it was an event. There were guys there too. And so, she was just bawling her eyes out, just pleading with her. No one wants to date me, et cetera, et cetera. So the shadchan finally, starts talking to some guys just so that she can find a guy to go up to her and speak to her, maybe maybe make her feel a little bit better, etc. She finally finds a guy that's willing to go up to her and, you know, say hello or whatever. And the guy walks into the room and the girl's like, "Oh, him?" I feel like a lot of that is going on where there's a lot of crying. And listen, there are people who generally have a hard time, but I feel that what a guy needs to bring to the table, and people are going to yell at me about this, but I seriously don't care, because I do feel this is probably one of the biggest problems in Shidduchim today, is the criteria that women have for guys. And what I want to say about this is, now, before I get into it, I want to say that anyone has the right to be as picky as you want. If you want a guy who's over 6 feet tall, makes $250,000 a year, has a full head of hair, you are more than, by all means, go for it. I just want to bring down to the reality of it, where the pickier a girl is, it makes it a lot harder for them to date than a guy is. So, for example, if a guy, let's say, I don't know, he's 5'9", and what's the average height even of a Jewish guy? 5'8", 5'9". Let's say they're 5'9".
5'8", yeah.
So let's say they're very picky. So they're going to want a girl who's shorter than him. So not even just necessarily shorter, but I looked this up on Perplexity or ChatGPT. How many women out there are between the height of 5'3" and 5'7", like, which is really specific. About 44 to 55% of women out there fit that bill.
Wow.
Okay. Now with women, and I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. You hear a lot of women say, "I will not date a guy who's." There are filters on dating apps that saying they start by 6 feet. They will not go out with anyone who's less than 6 feet tall. There are about 13% of all men who are 6 feet tall. So right from the get-go, you're eliminating majority of men. Okay.
What? What's the percentage of men that are 6 feet tall?
Right. So 6 feet tall and more is about 13%.
Oh.
Okay. And those are all men. That doesn't account for single men.
Oh, wow.
So now that goes down even more. And I'm not even getting it's not so crazy. We're just talking about height. Okay. We're just talking about height. Now, someone, and I went through the 3 core items: not bald and makes $100,000 a year or more. It was like less than 2% of the population.
Wow.
Whatever it is. My point is that you hear this all the time. There are no good men out there. All the freaking time. So my point is, you can be as picky as you want. I just want them to understand that every time you put in a quote unquote filter, that's a deal breaker, an absolute deal breaker. You are making it harder on yourself. And just realize the actual number of people out there who actually fit that bill. And I feel like if 100% of women are going after that type of guy, that essentially out of 100, there's 2 guys that fit that bill, it's a problem. And the perception is that no good guys are out there. And I feel like it's exactly why I love what Devorah Kegel is doing, because she kind of brings to fruition that maybe your deal breakers are not essentially what you should be looking for or you actually want. It's just what you tell yourself you want. Yes, I would like a guy with a 6-pack who's filthy rich and gorgeous. Congratulations. Are you good enough for that guy? Can you attract that guy, et cetera, et cetera? If you can, great. But in the reality of things, how many men are actually like that? And you have to just work backwards. Because, like, if you actually look from a guy's perspective, like, how many, like, with a woman, there's like 50 different criteria of what they're looking for. With a guy, it's really simple. If they find them attractive, you're already 80% of the way there. And then they might, something maybe about age, maybe the age thing, you can get them on. Like, how many real things are out there? So the pool of women are going to be bigger for men because, generally speaking, men don't put as much criteria for a woman, if that makes sense. So does that make any sense of what I'm saying?
Yeah. from what I'm hearing is that for men who are dating, they may have like stricter criteria, but not as much criteria as a woman would have.
Right. And I know the picky, even the people who you think are the pickiest guys in the world are, believe it or not, are willing to compromise on things that you may not think they might compromise on. They're a lot more willing to try things out than I feel women are. I feel like women are very, very set in their criteria. And if you don't meet
That's
that
true.
criteria,
I will say I am shocked in a good way. To see some of these guys that I know go out with some girls that I know. Like, I'm shocked in a good way. Like, I was like, oh, wow. He went out with her. I'm like shocked in a good way. You know, like he put aside some things to go out with this woman. And I actually ended up knowing both of them. And it's nice to see. It's nice to see that happen.
right. That's really all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not, again, this is not, as we said before, this podcast is not about bashing. It's trying to bring to light what we feel is the reality of things.
Hopefully
And how
there's an evolution out there that is allowing people to kind of just like take it down a notch, kind of just like relax, take a breath. Like maybe that person doesn't have to be 6 feet. Maybe they can go out with someone who's like 5'8" or 5'9". Maybe just like take it down a notch, maybe not be so like rigid in finding someone who's 6 feet. Hopefully there's an evolution of that starting. So
right. And again, you are more than welcome to be as picky as you want. Just understand, the pickier you are, the harder it gets. So I kind of take the, let's say I hate dating apps. I think they're just complete waste of time and honestly not good for your mental health, especially as a guy. I think for women, it's a little bit better. You match a lot more, whatever, et cetera, whatever. I don't have to get into it. But let's say if your filter is over 6 feet tall and this and whatever, and then there are 0 people that fit their criteria, maybe filter for someone who's 5'11" and see what you get, and then filter down and keep going. Don't just keep it at 6 feet and then complain that nobody exists.
yeah,
That's my point. That's all. That's it. That's
yeah,
really all this is. I hope people can take that to heart. And
yeah.
kind of
Just be
realize what they're
open-minded.
doing. So that's how I've shifted over the years.
I was gonna say, your brother, my husband, brought up something really interesting.
Let's hear
He
it.
read an article that was basically saying that first dates are very difficult because people, when they don't feel chemistry or when they don't feel a spark, quote unquote, that is when they kind of cast it aside and they say, I'm not moving on to a second date. I just wasn't feeling it. In this article, this guy wrote about, I'm being so general right now, I'm not, but what this article essentially was saying was you have to know how to create that chemistry with someone, and you have to know how to create a spark. It doesn't just like happen out of thin air. You have to have tools and you have to have awareness about how to do that. And I thought that was very interesting because I wasn't so self-aware myself when I was dating about that. I just thought that was an interesting take and like something to just note on our way out of here. But
Right.
people have to know how to start chemistry and make a spark. If you're not putting the effort into trying to do that, then you don't know what it is until you learn how to do it. Once you learn how to use that tool, then you can say, maybe this isn't the girl for me. I'm going to take it, to the net, like go on a second date. And if the chemistry isn't there, then that's fine. But going on one date and like being like, I just wasn't feeling it. You just need to make sure. I'm not saying you force to go out again. Just have more of a self-awareness of if you know how to create that chemistry with someone.
I mean, I've definitely kind of changed that perspective for myself. When I go out now, it's usually like two to probably three times already.
Right. But I'm not saying if somebody's not feeling it on the first date, I totally understand.
No, for
but
sure.
Don't be feeling it because you just weren't feeling it. Like
right.
You really have to.
It's not. Yeah.
Understand why you weren't feeling it, and then go from there.
I read that article too. What that article was really referring to were specifically yeshiva / Beis Yaakov people who aren't necessarily, essentially are told their entire life, don't talk the opposite sex. All of a sudden, you're 18, 19, or 20 years old, and
exactly
here you are in a hotel lobby, speaking with the opposite sex about a very serious topic. Essentially, is this person going to be my spouse? So
right.
That's what it was really referring to. But they were saying you're not just going to feel something immediate, right off the bat. Like you do need the skills to be able to kind of communicate and create spark. I feel like even in the secular world, creating spark is one of the hardest things to do. I don't think, until I actually go through that training and see what they're all about, we can talk about that more. But yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was too. I was like, I never thought of that. That's probably why it took me so long. I was building skill, I guess you could say.
I like to think I'm building that skill too.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's one other view that's definitely changed, and my view on WhatsApp chats. Now, before I used to just rip on WhatsApp chats because I felt, ultimately, I feel the best way to meet somebody is in person, primarily because that's really the best way to present yourself. Is really meeting someone in person for 2 minutes is worth 100 times more than any resume could ever do, possibly, in my opinion. So that ultimately is the best way that I think. But I think what I'm going to say specifically, Natan and his crew and his chat who've been on our show. Have really done a great job with it, and the reason why I like what they're doing is because it's a lot more. They're really on top of it, and they're really not looking to take advantage of people. They're not looking to make money off it. They're not looking to charge people. They're not looking. There's no ulterior motive other than they actually genuinely want to help people.
Yes, I was going to say he generally just wants to help people. Yeah.
But more than anything, he's got the inventory. I like to say inventory. like there's just so many people that he's like. So you really do
his network is bigger.
It's a very large network.
Yeah.
But let's say you're interested in someone, they get back to you pretty quickly. And for example, my biggest issue with shidduch chats before was, for example, let's say someone saw a girl they thought I would be interested in from a shidduch chat. They don't know them, whatever. So they reached out to me about her. I'm like, first of all, she looks fake. She looks like AI generated, whatever. And I'm just like, I think it would be fun. I just want to see if this person is real. So feel free to reach out. So they ended up reaching out to the person who posted it, and you just never hear back from them. And that's how I felt. Like the shidduch. What I felt was happening was people are getting resumes that they may or may not have been approved to even post, but it's forwarded so many times they don't even know where it's coming from or if this person even exists, and they're just posting it blindly on a chat.
Right.
With Natan, it's a lot different. It's just different. So I do give him a lot of credit. Keep up the good work if you're listening. But I have changed my opinion on WhatsApp chat.
Yeah.
Specifically for that reason.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Shidduchim. Yeah. But yeah, and one final thought, at least from my end, was the How to Be the Better Shadchanim episode, where Shagrin Balev asked me to give a my TED talk on how to be better shadchanim.
Yeah.
I just loved it. It's just taking it in.
I thought it was nice. Yeah. I cannot for the life of me pronounce it correctly, but
Shagri and Believe.
Yeah.
My dad, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So my dad, watched it, and he told me, he's like, Max, everyone looked like they were deers in the headlights. They have never, because he felt like people are so set on just forwarding resumes and doing things the way they are, and etc. And I just brought up things that just have never really been discussed before, and just really bring a different perspective. So when he told me that, I thought it was hysterical.
That's really funny.
I think he was I
didn't even know who would have watched it.
Yeah, a number of people watch it, and I appreciate them reaching out about that.
Yeah.
So that was great. But
Sugar Green Believe.
Sugar Green Believe.
Isn't that what it is? What's it called?
Sugar Green Believe. Sugar Green
Believe.
Oh my Lord. Say it again?
Say it right.
I don't think so. Say it again?
Shagrin Believe.
You're saying Shagrin Believe. It's Shagrin Believe.
Shagrin Believe.
There we go. Yeah. Good job, sir. Oh Lord.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well with that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Maybe you have final thoughts. I just have some final thoughts just to give over. But why don't you go first?
My final thoughts, my biggest takeaway is to be kind and to try to gain perspective and not be so closed-minded. Try to hear other people's stories and like what you said, you changed your mind about WhatsApps. Maybe I'll change my mind about something else that's come up. And I think that would be due to the conversations that we have on this podcast. I hope that we have scattered or sprinkled some thoughts throughout the community. I hope that people are actually listening to us and that we become, just, I guess what we wanted to do is just start conversation. And I hope that that's what we did. And I hope that was my goal, not to just start controversy and bash people. It was just honest conversation. And I really hope that is what happened. And I hope that people can take what we said and did in the podcast and just start conversation with that. I would be happy with that.
But I do generally, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate each and every one of you who listen to the show. I really don't take that lightly, and we do sincerely appreciate it. Appreciate all the feedback when people reach out to us and say, "I love that episode." That really, we do genuinely appreciate it. We appreciate all of you, and
we appreciate our listeners. We couldn't have done the season without them.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's all about Shidduchim for the final time. Anyways, so as we end off, as always, Sarah, why don't you take it away?
Oh, well, thanks for listening, everybody. And I guess until next time, bye.
And remember, everything will always be about Shidduchim. Catch you in the next episode.